The cop who found my wife's wreck called at midnight. Say nothing. They are listening. Then he told me, go to her grave and dig 3 inches. I asked why. He whispered, because your wife buried the truth there. The call came at 11:47 p.m. I was sitting in the dark, the way I had been sitting most nights since Rebecca died, alone in the living room, with a glass of whiskey I had not touched, staring at nothing. The kids were asleep upstairs, Lily in her room and Ethan in his. The house was silent, except for the ticking of the grandfather clock Rebecca had inherited from her grandmother. 8 months. 8 months since the accident. 8 months since a police officer knocked on my door at 2 in the morning and told me my wife's car had gone off Riverside Road. 8 months since I identified her body at the morgue, her beautiful face untouched, but her chest crushed by the steering column. 8 months of grief so heavy I could barely breathe. When my phone lit up with an unknown number, I almost did not answer. Telemarketers, scammers, wrong numbers, I had stopped caring about all of it. But something made me reach for it, something I could not explain. Hello, Mr. Mercer. The voice was male, low and urgent. Do not speak. Just say yes or no. They are listening. My blood went cold. Yes. Good. Do you remember Officer Ryan Caldwell? I was first on scene at your wife's accident. I remembered. A cop with kind eyes who had held my arm when I nearly collapsed at the crash site. A man who had said, "I'm so sorry, sir," in a voice that sounded like he actually meant it. Yes, your wife did not die in an accident, Mr. Mercer. She was murdered. The room tilted. I gripped the armrest of the couch, my heart slamming against my ribs. I have proof, he said, but I cannot give it to you directly. They are watching both of us. They have been, since the night she died. Who? Do not ask questions, not now, just listen. I closed my mouth. My hand was shaking so badly, I could barely hold the phone. Go to her grave tonight, midnight. At the base of the headstone, dig down exactly 3 inches. You will find a metal box. Why would? Because your wife was not the only thing buried there. His voice dropped even lower. Barely more than a whisper. She knew they would come for her. She prepared. And I made sure her preparation would reach you. Who killed her? There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with something that sounded like grief. Open the box. Then you will understand why I could not tell you sooner. Why I had to wait 8 months for the surveillance to relax. Why I am risking everything to make this call. I do not understand. You will. But Mr. Mercer, once you see what is inside, trust no one in this town, especially not the police. The line went dead. I sat there for a long moment, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. My mind raced, trying to process what I had just heard. Rebecca was murdered. Someone had killed my wife, made it look like an accident, and a cop, the cop who found her, had just told me to dig at her grave at midnight. It was insane. It had to be some kind of sick joke, some twisted prank by someone who thought it would be funny to torment a grieving widower. But Officer Caldwell's voice had not sounded like a prankster. It had sounded like a man who was terrified. A man who was taking an enormous risk to tell me something that could not be said any other way. I looked at the clock. 11:52 p.m. 8 minutes until midnight. I grabbed my jacket and my car keys. I did not know if I believed what I had just heard. I did not know if I was walking into a trap, a revelation, or something else entirely. But I knew I had to find out. The cemetery was dark. There was no moon that night, just thick clouds blocking out the stars. The only light came from my phone's flashlight, casting a narrow beam across the headstones as I walked. I had been there dozens of times since Rebecca died. I brought flowers every Sunday. I sat on the grass and talked to her about the kids, about work, about how much I missed her. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I just sat in silence, pretending she could hear me. But I had never been there at midnight. Never been there alone in the dark, with a shovel in my hand, and Officer Caldwell's words echoing in my head. Rebecca's grave was in the newer section, near a grove of oak trees she would have loved. The headstone was simple white marble, elegant font, exactly the way she would have wanted it. Rebecca Ann Mercer, 1982 to 2023. Beloved wife, mother, and truth seeker. The truth will set you free. That last line had been her favorite quote. She had it framed in her home office where she wrote her articles. She was a journalist, an investigative reporter for the local paper. She had won awards for her work, exposed corrupt contractors and cheating politicians, and made enemies in high places. I had always been proud of her courage. I had always admired the way she pursued the truth no matter where it led. I never imagined that courage might have gotten her killed. I knelt at the base of the headstone. My hands were trembling. The shovel felt impossibly heavy. 3 inches, Caldwell had said, just 3 inches below the surface. I pressed the blade into the grass and began to dig. The soil was soft. It had rained 2 days earlier. The shovel sliced through easily, lifting clumps of dark earth. 1 inch, 2 inches. At 3 inches, the blade struck something hard. Metal. I dropped the shovel and dug with my hands, scraping away the dirt until I could see it clearly. A metal box, maybe 8 inches square, wrapped in plastic to protect it from moisture. Someone had buried it carefully, precisely exactly where Caldwell had said it would be. I pulled it out of the ground, brushed off the dirt, and unwrapped the plastic. Inside the box was everything. A USB drive in a sealed bag. A stack of photographs bound with a rubber band. A small voice recorder. A cell phone I had never seen before. A cheap burner model, not Rebecca's regular phone. And an envelope with my name written on it in Rebecca's handwriting. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter, 3 pages, front and back, covered in her familiar script. The handwriting was slightly uneven, as if she had written quickly and urgently. I started to read, and the world I thought I knew shattered into a million pieces. My darling Daniel, if you are reading this, they killed me. And Officer Caldwell kept his promise to lead you here. I am sorry I kept this from you. I am sorry I lied about the late nights, the secret meetings, the phone calls I took in another room. I told myself I was protecting you and the kids. Maybe I was just protecting myself from having to explain, but you deserve the truth now, all of it. 6 months ago, I received a tip from a man named Thomas Reeves. He was a city accountant. He worked in the finance department for 15 years. He came to me because he had discovered something that made him sick to his stomach. Chief William Hargrove and Mayor Victoria Ashford have been stealing from the city for 12 years. $23 million, Daniel. $23 million siphoned through fake construction contracts, phony consulting fees, and shell companies that exist only on paper. They have been using the police department as their personal enforcement arm. Anyone who gets too close to the truth disappears. 3 whistleblowers in 12 years, all ruled suicides or accidents. Thomas Reeves was supposed to be the 4th. He came to me because he knew I would not let it go. Because he had read my articles and believed I was someone who could be trusted. He gave me everything. Financial records, emails, photographs of Hargrove and Ashford meeting with contractors who do not exist. 2 weeks after our first meeting, Thomas was found dead in his apartment. They said he hanged himself. They said he left a note about depression and financial troubles. But I had spoken to him the day before Daniel. He was scared, but he was not suicidal. He was excited. He thought we were about to blow the whole thing wide open. They killed him, just like they are going to kill me. I know they are watching me. I can feel it. The same car has been parked outside our house for 3 days. There are clicks on my phone line when I pick up. Detective Marcus Stone Hargrove's right-hand man has been following me. I see him everywhere I go, watching, waiting. I should have gone to the FBI. I should have taken this to someone outside the city. But I was arrogant, Daniel. I thought I could handle it myself. I thought I could publish the story, expose them all, and let the national attention protect me. I was wrong. So I am preparing for the worst. Everything I have gathered is on the USB drive. Documents, recordings, photographs. The burner phone has encrypted messages between me and Thomas and between me and Officer Caldwell. The voice recorder has a conversation I taped with a contractor who admitted to the fake invoices. It is all here. Everything they need to bring Hargrove and Ashford down. I told Officer Caldwell about this spot. He is one of the only clean cops in the department. He tried to report corruption years ago, and they destroyed his career for it. Demoted him, sidelined him, made his life hell. But he never stopped believing in justice. If anything happens to me, he promised to wait until it was safe, then bring you here. The fact that you are reading this means he kept his word. Daniel, I need you to finish what I started. Not for revenge, for justice. For Thomas Reeves, for the 3 other people they killed. For every citizen of this city who has been robbed blind by people who swore to protect them. Take this evidence to the FBI field office in the state capital, not the local office. I do not know how far the corruption reaches. Go directly to the Capitol. Ask for Agent Sarah Chen. She has been investigating public corruption cases for 20 years. She can be trusted. I verified her myself before I ran out of time. I love you, Daniel. I have loved you since the moment we met at that terrible coffee shop with the burnt espresso. You were so nervous. You spilled your drink twice and apologized 3 times. I thought it was the most endearing thing I had ever seen. I loved you through 16 years of marriage, through 2 beautiful children, through every fight about my work hours, and every reconciliation at 3 in the morning when we both admitted we were being stubborn. Through the good times, the hard times, and the ordinary in-between times that somehow meant the most. I will love you beyond death. Tell Lily that her mother was brave. Tell her that when she grows up, I want her to fight for what she believes in, even when it is scary. Especially when it is scary. Tell Ethan that his mother was proud of him every single day, that his kindness and his gentle heart are the most valuable things a person can have. Never let anyone make him think being kind is weakness. And tell them both. Tell them their mother loved them with every breath she took, that leaving them is the only regret I have, that I would give anything for one more bedtime story, one more school play, one more Sunday morning making pancakes together. But I cannot, so you will have to do it for me. Finish this, Daniel, for me, for us, for everyone they hurt. And then live, really live. Do not let grief consume you. Do not let anger poison you. Find happiness again, laugh again, love again. That is what I want for you. That is the last gift I can give. Forever yours, Rebecca. The password to the USB drive is the date of our first kiss. You remember, the rainstorm, the awning, the moment I knew. I sat in the darkness of the cemetery and wept. Not quiet tears, not dignified grief. Great heaving sobs shook my entire body, sobs I could not have stopped if I tried. I clutched the letter to my chest and cried for everything I had lost. My wife, my innocence, the 8 months I had spent believing it was an accident. She had known. She had known they were coming for her, and she had prepared anyway. She had gathered the evidence, made the arrangements, and written me a letter I would only read if she was dead. My wife had faced her own murder with clear eyes and steady hands. She had spent her final weeks not running, not hiding, but making sure her work would survive her. And I had been oblivious, going to work, coming home, kissing her goodbye in the morning, without any idea that each kiss might be the last, without any idea that she was carrying this enormous secret, this enormous danger, and protecting me from it even as it closed in around her. I do not know how long I sat there. Time had stopped meaning anything, but eventually the tears ran dry, and I was left with something harder, something cold. Rage. They had killed my wife, murdered her, made it look like an accident. They had let me spend 8 months drowning in grief while they went about their lives secure in the knowledge that they had gotten away with it. Chief William Hargrove, Mayor Victoria Ashford, Detective Marcus Stone. I knew these people. I had seen Hargrove at community events, shaking hands, giving speeches about keeping our streets safe. I had voted for Ashford twice, believed her promises about fiscal responsibility and good government. I had nodded politely at Stone when I passed him on the street, never suspecting that he was the man who ran my wife off the road. They had smiled at me at Rebecca's funeral, offered their condolences, told me what a terrible tragedy it was, and the whole time, they were the ones who had killed her. I gathered the evidence, the USB drive, the photographs, the recorder, and the burner phone, and put everything back in the metal box. I filled in the hole I had dug, smoothed over the grass, and made it look like no one had been there. Then I walked back to my car, got in, and drove home. I had a lot of work to do. Let me tell you about my wife. Rebecca Ann Mercer was the most stubborn, brilliant, infuriating woman I had ever met. She never backed down from a fight. She never accepted no for an answer. She never let anyone tell her something was impossible. We met in 2005 at a coffee shop near the university where I was finishing my MBA. She was 23, a junior reporter at the student newspaper already making a name for herself with investigations into campus corruption. I was 27, trying to figure out what to do with my life, drinking terrible espresso and pretending to read a business textbook. She sat down at my table without asking permission. "You have been staring at the same page for 20 minutes, she said. "Either that chapter is incredibly fascinating, or you are using that book as a prop." I was so startled I knocked over my coffee. It spilled across the table toward her laptop, and I scrambled to mop it up with napkins while apologizing over and over. She just laughed. "I'm Rebecca," she said, handing me more napkins. "And you are adorable when you are flustered." That was the beginning. We dated for 2 years, got married in 2007, and bought a house in this town in 2009. Lily came along in 2010, Ethan in 2013. Rebecca worked her way up from student journalist to staff writer to investigative reporter, winning awards and making enemies with equal frequency. I went into consulting, built a successful practice, and made enough money that we never had to worry about bills. It was a good life, a comfortable life, the kind of life where you think you know what each day will bring. But I never really knew Rebecca, not all of her. I knew she worked late sometimes. I knew she took phone calls in the other room. I knew there were stories she could not talk about until they were published, sources she had to protect. I trusted her. I believed her when she said it was just work. I never pushed when she seemed distracted or worried. I never demanded answers she was not ready to give. Maybe if I had pushed, she would have told me. Maybe I could have helped. Maybe I could have convinced her to go to the FBI sooner to let someone else carry the burden. Or maybe she would have pushed back, told me not to worry, and kept doing exactly what she was doing, because that was who she was. I will never know now. All I know is that my wife died fighting for something she believed in, and she trusted me to finish what she started. I was not going to let her down. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I went to my home office, the one room in the house with a lock on the door, and began reviewing the evidence. The USB drive was password protected, just as Rebecca had said. The password was the date of our first kiss, June 15th, 2005. The rainstorm, the awning. We had been walking back from dinner when the sky opened up. No warning, just sudden pouring rain. We ducked under the awning of a closed bookstore, pressed together in the narrow shelter, laughing at how soaked we were, and then she kissed me. Not a shy first kiss, not a tentative exploration. She grabbed my face with both hands and kissed me like she had been waiting her whole life to do it. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were shining. "I have been wanting to do that all night," she said. "Then why did you wait?" "Because I wanted to be sure," she smiled. "And now I'm sure." That was the moment I knew I would marry her. The moment everything changed. I typed the date into the password field. The drive unlocked. Inside were dozens of files meticulously organized. Financial records, email chains, photographs, audio files, video clips. Everything Rebecca had gathered in 6 months of investigation, cataloged and cross-referenced with the precision of someone who knew exactly what she was building. A case. An airtight, undeniable, devastating case. I started with the financial records. Spreadsheets showed city payments to construction companies that did not exist. Invoices for projects that were never completed. Wire transfers to offshore accounts linked to shell corporations. $23 million. Rebecca had calculated every dollar. Then came the photographs. Chief Hargrove meeting with a man in an expensive suit. The caption identified him as Vincent Russo, alleged contractor, no business registration found. Mayor Ashford handing an envelope to someone in a parking garage. Detective Stone following Thomas Reeves 2 days before his death. The audio files were the most damning. Conversations. Rebecca had recorded her voice, calm and professional, asking questions the subjects did not realize were traps. So, this invoice for $1.2 million, can you tell me what project that was for?
That was the Riverside Drainage Project. Standard infrastructure.
Interesting, because I drove out to Riverside yesterday. There is no drainage project, no construction equipment, no signs of any work being done. I must have the wrong file. Let me check. Do not bother. I already have the real files. The question is whether you want to tell me the truth now or wait until the FBI asks you the same questions. That was my wife. Brilliant, relentless, unafraid. And they had killed her for it. The next morning, I told the kids I had to take a business trip. How long? Lily asked. She was 14, old enough to be suspicious of sudden schedule changes. Just a few days. Aunt Margaret is going to stay with you. Is everything okay, Dad? Her eyes searched my face. You look different. I forced a smile. Everything is fine, sweetheart. Just some urgent work stuff. I will call you every night, okay? She did not believe me. I could see it in her face. But she nodded anyway, because that was what we had learned to do since Rebecca died. We had learned to pretend things were okay, even when they were not. Ethan was easier. At 11, he was still young enough to accept simple explanations without question. He hugged me goodbye and went back to his video game. I drove to the state capitol 3 hours away, far enough that I felt reasonably safe from surveillance. I checked into a motel under a fake name, paid cash, and called the FBI field office. I need to speak with Agent Sarah Chen. It is about a murder, multiple murders, and public corruption at the highest levels of local government. They put me on hold, transferred me, then put me on hold again. Finally, a woman's voice came on the line. This is Agent Chen. Agent Chen, my name is Daniel Mercer. My wife was Rebecca Mercer. She was an investigative journalist. She was murdered 8 months ago, and I have evidence that proves it. She told me I could trust you. A pause. Rebecca Mercer, the reporter who died in a car accident. It was not an accident. She was investigating corruption in our city government. She was about to expose a 12-year embezzlement scheme involving the police chief and the mayor. They killed her to stop her. They killed at least 3 other people too. Another pause, longer this time. Mr. Mercer, I am going to need you to come to my office. Can you be here in an hour? I can be there in 20 minutes. Good. And Mr. Mercer, do not talk to anyone else. Do not tell anyone where you are. If what you are saying is true, the people responsible will do anything to stop this from coming out. I know. My wife made sure I understood that. I hung up and grabbed the metal box with all the evidence. Rebecca had trusted Agent Chen. I had to trust her too. It was time to finish what my wife started. Agent Sarah Chen was in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded me of Rebecca. She listened without interrupting as I told her everything. The phone call from Caldwell, the grave, the evidence, the letter. Then she spent 4 hours reviewing the files while I sat in a conference room drinking bad coffee. When she finally came back, her face was grim. Mr. Mercer, your wife built one hell of a case. I have been investigating public corruption for 20 years, and this is some of the most comprehensive evidence I have ever seen. So you believe me? I believe the evidence, and I believe your wife was murdered. The accident report never sat right with me. I reviewed it as part of a routine check 6 months ago, and there were inconsistencies I could not explain. Now, I understand why. What happens now? Now we build a federal case. The corruption your wife documented crosses state lines. The shell companies are registered in 3 different states. The money was moved through interstate banking systems. That gives us jurisdiction. How long? Weeks. maybe months. We need to verify everything, gather additional evidence, build profiles on all the players. When we move, we need to move decisively. If Hargrove or Ashford gets wind of this investigation, they will run. Or worse, they will come after you. The threat hung in the air between us. They are already watching me, are they not? Probably. Which is why you are going to go home, act normal, and pretend this meeting never happened. We will handle the investigation. When it is time to move, we will make sure you and your children are protected. I cannot just go home and act like nothing happened. They killed my wife. And they will kill you too if they think you are a threat. Agent Chen's voice was firm, but not unkind. Your wife spent 6 months building this case because she wanted it done right. She did not want revenge. She wanted justice. The best way to honor her memory is to let us do our jobs. I wanted to argue. I wanted to march into Hargrove's office and put my hands around his throat. I wanted to make him suffer the way I had suffered. But Rebecca's letter echoed in my mind. Not for revenge, for justice. She was right. She was always right. Okay, I said, I will wait. But you have to promise me something. What? When you arrest them, I want to be there. I want to see their faces when they realize it is over. Agent Chen nodded slowly. I think I can arrange that. The next 2 months were the hardest of my life. I went home, I went back to work, I took the kids to school, I helped with homework, I made dinner. I attended the community events where Hargrove glad-handed people and Ashford made speeches. I smiled and nodded when they offered empty condolences about Rebecca. Every interaction was agony. Every smile was a mask covering rage so intense I could barely contain it. But I contained it. For the kids. For Rebecca. For the justice she had died trying to achieve. Agent Chen called once a week with updates. The investigation was proceeding. Additional evidence was being gathered. Wiretaps had been approved. Undercover agents were building relationships with people inside the corruption network. The net was closing. Meanwhile, Officer Caldwell maintained his distance. We had agreed through a single brief phone call that any contact between us would be too risky. He continued his work on the force, watching and waiting, gathering what additional evidence he could without drawing suspicion. The surveillance I was under gradually decreased. They thought I was just a grieving widower moving through life in a fog of sorrow. They had no idea I was the fuse on a bomb that was about to destroy everything they had built. 2 months after my meeting with Agent Chen, she called with different news. It is time. We are moving tomorrow morning. Simultaneous arrests. Hargrove, Ashford, Stone, and 4 others. Federal marshals, FBI tactical teams, the works. My heart was pounding. And I can be there. Be at the Riverside parking lot at 6 in the morning. That is where we are staging. And Mr. Mercer, bring the letter. I think the arresting officers should know exactly who they are serving justice for. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Rebecca, thinking about everything she had sacrificed. Tomorrow, it would finally be over. The morning of the arrests was cold and gray. I arrived at the staging area at 5:45 a.m. Federal vehicles were everywhere. Black SUVs, unmarked sedans, a mobile command center. Agents in tactical gear were checking equipment, reviewing plans, preparing for the most significant law enforcement operation this city had ever seen. Agent Chen met me at the perimeter. You ready? I have been ready for 8 months. She handed me a bulletproof vest. Put this on just in case. I strapped it on without argument. The weight of it felt appropriate somehow, protective, like Rebecca was looking out for me even now. Chief Hargrove is first, Chen explained. His house is 3 blocks from here. We will hit his place at exactly 6:15, simultaneously with the mayor's residence and Detective Stone's apartment. Once we have all 3 in custody, we will move on the secondary targets. What about Officer Caldwell? He has been briefed. He will be part of the team arresting Hargrove. We thought it was fitting. The one good cop in a corrupt department helping take down the chief who tried to destroy his career. I felt a surge of gratitude. Caldwell had risked everything to honor his promise to Rebecca. He deserved to be there at the end. At 6:14, we were in position outside Hargrove's house. It was a nice place, too nice for a police chief's salary. 4 bedrooms, a swimming pool, luxury cars in the driveway. $23 million can buy a lot of comfort. At 6:15 exactly, the team moved.
FBI, open the door. We have a federal warrant.
3 seconds of silence, then movement inside. Footsteps, shouting, something crashing. The battering ram hit the door. It flew open. Agents poured inside. I waited outside, heart pounding, listening to the sounds of the arrest. Shouting, commands, a woman screaming, Hargrove's wife probably. Then, a few minutes later, the words I had been waiting to hear. William Hargrove, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, wire fraud, and corruption of public office. You have the right to remain silent. They brought him out in handcuffs. He was wearing pajamas. His hair was disheveled. His face was a mask of shock and disbelief, as if he could not comprehend that this was actually happening. And then he saw me. Our eyes met. His expression shifted from shock to recognition, then to something darker. Fear, maybe, or hatred. He understood then. He understood that everything he had done, everything he had built, was collapsing because of the woman he had murdered. I did not say anything. I did not need to. I just held up Rebecca's letter, the letter she had written before she died, and let him see it. His face went white. That is not possible, he whispered. We searched everything. You did not search her grave. Agent Chen stepped between us, guiding Hargrove toward a waiting vehicle. But I saw the moment the realization hit him, the moment he understood that Rebecca had outsmarted him even from beyond death. She had won. The other arrests went just as smoothly. Mayor Ashford was taken into custody at her home, still in her bathrobe, trying to call her lawyer on a phone that had already been confiscated. Detective Stone was caught trying to flee through a back window. 2 agents tackled him before he got 10 feet. By 8 in the morning, all 7 targets were in federal custody. By noon, the news had broken nationally. By evening, the city was in chaos. Protests outside City Hall, emergency council meetings, the governor announcing a special investigation. 12 years of corruption unraveled in a single morning. Agent Chen held a press conference that evening. She stood at a podium, surrounded by FBI officials holding up a photograph of Rebecca. This investigation was made possible by the work of Rebecca Mercer, an investigative journalist who gave her life pursuing the truth. She gathered the evidence that brought down this corruption network. She documented every transaction, every meeting, every crime. And when she realized she might not survive to see justice done, she made arrangements to ensure her work would continue after her death. The room was silent. Cameras flashed. Rebecca Mercer was murdered on October 15, 2023. Her death was staged to look like an accident, but a federal investigation has confirmed that Detective Marcus Stone ran her vehicle off the road on orders from Chief William Hargrove. They killed her because she was about to expose their crimes. They thought her death would bury the truth forever. Chen paused, looking directly into the cameras. They were wrong. Rebecca Mercer's courage and preparation ensured that the truth would come out. Today, we honor her memory by bringing her killers to justice. I watched the press conference from the FBI field office, surrounded by agents who had spent months building the case. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Rebecca would have hated all the attention. She never wanted to be a story. She wanted to tell stories. But she would have loved seeing Hargrove and Ashford in handcuffs. She would have loved knowing that her work mattered, that her sacrifice meant something. I hoped wherever she was, she could see it. The trials took place the following spring. I attended every day. I sat in the gallery and watched as prosecutors laid out the case my wife had built. I listened as witnesses testified about the corruption, the embezzlement, the murders. They played Rebecca's recordings in court, her voice calm and professional, asking questions that exposed the rot at the heart of our city government. Hearing her voice after so many months of silence broke me and healed me at the same time. Chief Hargrove was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, wire fraud, and a dozen other charges. He got 45 years. He will die in prison. Mayor Ashford was convicted of embezzlement, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. She got 30 years. Detective Stone was convicted of first-degree murder for Rebecca's death, plus 2 counts of second-degree murder for the other whistleblowers. He got life without parole. The others, the contractors, the accountants,
The enablers all received sentences ranging from 10 to 20 years.
when the final verdict was read, I stood up and walked out of the courtroom. I drove to the cemetery and sat down beside Rebecca's grave. "We did it," I said. "We got them all. Every single one." The wind rustled through the oak trees. A bird sang somewhere nearby. Agent Chen said you built one of the best cases she has ever seen. She said you would have made a hell of a federal prosecutor if you had not been a journalist.
I laughed through tears. I told her you would have hated being a prosecutor. Too many rules, too much bureaucracy. I touched the headstone and traced the letters of her name with my fingers. The kids are okay. Lily is struggling. She is angry mostly. Angry at the people who killed you. Angry at the world. Angry at me sometimes for not protecting you. But she is seeing a therapist and it is helping. She reminds me of you so much. The same stubborn determination. The same refusal to back down. I wiped my eyes. Ethan is quieter. He does not talk about you much, but he keeps the photo of you in his room. And sometimes I hear him talking to it at night, telling you about his day, about school, about his friends, about the video games he is playing. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I miss you every day, every single day. Sometimes I forget you are gone. I will hear something funny and think, I have to tell Rebecca about this. And then I remember, and it hits me all over again. I stood up and brushed the grass off my pants. But I am doing what you asked. I am trying to live, really live. It is hard, but I am trying. For the kids, for myself, for you. I placed my hand on the headstone one last time. Thank you for trusting me, for believing I could finish what you started, for loving me enough to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. I started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. I love you, Rebecca. I will always love you. And I promise I will never, ever forget what you taught me about courage. Officer Ryan Caldwell retired from the police department 6 months after the arrests. He could not stay, not after everything that had happened. The department was being rebuilt from the ground up, and most of the officers who had served under Hargrove were either under investigation or had resigned in disgrace. Caldwell was offered a promotion. The new chief wanted him to help restore public trust, to be the face of a reform department. But he turned it down. I spent 15 years watching corruption destroy good people, he told me over coffee one afternoon. I watched them sideline anyone who tried to do the right thing. I watched them kill your wife because she was braver than all of them combined. He shook his head. I cannot wear that uniform anymore, not after what I have seen. Instead, he became a private investigator, specializing in corruption cases, working with journalists and lawyers to expose the kind of crimes official channels too often ignore. We stay in touch. He comes to dinner sometimes. He tells the kids stories about the investigation and answers their questions about police work. Lily has decided she wants to be an investigative journalist like her mother. Caldwell encourages her, even though we both know how dangerous that path can be. Your mom was special, he told her once. She saw things other people missed, and she never let fear stop her from doing what was right. Did you know her well? Lily asked. Not well, we only met a few times, but she saved my career in a way. She gave me a chance to do something that mattered after years of feeling helpless. He smiled. And she saved your dad's life. How? Caldwell glanced at me, then back at Lily. She left him the truth, and sometimes the truth is the only thing that can save us. 2 years have passed since that night in the cemetery. I am 48 now, still living in the same house, though I have redone Rebecca's office. It is a memorial now, with her awards on the walls, her favorite books on the shelves, and the framed copy of her final article, published posthumously, with her byline and a dedication from the editor. Lily is 16. She is editor of her high school newspaper, already winning awards for her investigative pieces. She exposed a cheating scandal among the athletic coaches last year. Nothing as significant as what her mother did, but it was the same instinct, the same determination. I want to be like her, Lily told me recently. I want to find the truth, even when people try to hide it. I know, sweetheart, and I am proud of you. But promise me you will be careful. Promise me you will trust the right people and protect yourself. I promise, Dad. I believed her, and I worried about her, the way I should have worried about Rebecca if I had known what she was doing. Ethan is 13. He is quieter than his sister, more introspective. He is developing an interest in computers and programming in the technical side of investigation. He talks about working for the FBI someday, using technology to catch criminals. Mom used recorders and cameras, he said once, but now everything is digital. If I learn how to trace money through computers, I could help people like her. Your mom would have loved that idea. I know. He smiled the same smile Rebecca used to have. That is why I want to do it. The money that was recovered, what was left of the $23 million, was used to establish the Rebecca Mercer Foundation for Investigative Journalism. We give grants to reporters working on dangerous stories, fund legal defense for journalists facing retaliation, and provide resources for whistleblowers who need protection. I serve on the board. So does Agent Chen. So does Officer Caldwell. It is not much in the grand scheme of things. It will not bring Rebecca back. It will not undo the months of grief the moment when I found out my wife had been murdered, or the night I dug 3 inches into her grave and found the truth. But it is something, a way to honor her memory, a way to make sure her courage matters. Last week, I visited the cemetery again. I go every Sunday just like I did before. I bring flowers, sit on the grass, and talk to her about the kids, about work, about the foundation, about the mundane details of a life she is no longer part of. But this time, I brought something different, a newspaper. The front page had a story about a corruption scandal in another city, a police department caught embezzling funds, a mayor arrested for bribery. The reporter who broke the story was a 26-year-old woman who cited Rebecca Mercer as her inspiration. I wanted to show you this, I said, holding up the paper. This reporter quoted your article from 15 years ago. She said it inspired her to go into journalism to investigate powerful people even when it was dangerous. The wind rustled the pages. You are still making a difference, Rebecca. Still inspiring people. Still changing the world even though you are gone. I set the newspaper down at the base of the headstone. I never thanked you, you know, for the letter, for the evidence, for trusting me to finish what you started. I paused, gathering my thoughts. But mostly, I never thanked you for the life we had. 16 years, 2 amazing children, a million ordinary moments that somehow meant everything. The sun was warm on my face. The sky was clear and blue. I am doing okay now. Some days are still hard, but mostly I am okay. The kids are thriving. The foundation is growing. The people who killed you are rotting in prison. I stood up and brushed off my pants. I used to be angry all the time. After I found out the truth, I wanted to burn the whole world down. But you told me not to let anger poison me. You told me to live, really live. And I am trying. I smiled. I even went on a date last month. Just coffee, nothing serious, but it was nice. I think you would want me to be happy again, to find someone to share my life with. That is what you said in the letter. I touched the headstone. I am not ready yet, but someday, maybe. And when I am, I will know it is because you gave me permission, because you loved me enough to want me to move forward. I started to walk away, then turned back one last time. Thank you, Rebecca, for everything, for the love, for the truth, for the life we built together, and for the letter that showed me who you really were. Not just my wife, but a hero. I blew a kiss toward the grave. I will see you next Sunday, same time, same place. I will bring more flowers. The wind picked up, rustling through the oak trees, carrying the scent of grass and flowers and something else. Something that might have been imagination or might have been memory. For just a moment, I could have sworn I heard her voice.
I love you, Daniel. I always will. I know it sounds impossible. A phone call at midnight, a cop who could not tell me the truth directly, a metal box buried at my wife's grave containing evidence that proved her murder and brought down a conspiracy. But it happened.
Every word of it. Rebecca Mercer was a journalist, a mother, and a wife. She spent 6 months investigating corruption that had stolen $23 million from our city. She knew the investigation might cost her life, and she prepared anyway. She trusted the right people, left the evidence where it could be found, and made sure her death would not mean the end of justice. She was the bravest person I have ever known. And every day, I try to live up to the example she set. To pursue the truth.
To fight for what matters, even when it is hard. That is her legacy. That is what she left behind. Not just evidence, not just convictions. A reminder that one person with enough courage and determination can change the world. Now, I want to ask you something. What would you do if you received a call at midnight telling you to dig at your loved one's grave? Would you trust the caller? Would you have the courage to uncover a truth that powerful people wanted buried forever?
And if you found what I found, evidence of murder, corruption, and betrayal, would you have the strength to see it through? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, especially anyone who has ever lost someone they loved and wondered if there was more to the story. Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story. I will see you in the next one.
3 nights ago, I woke at 2 in the morning. I could not sleep. The anniversary of Rebecca's death was approaching and my mind would not quiet. I drove to the cemetery and parked in the same spot I had parked 2 years ago the night Officer Caldwell told me to dig. The grave looked different in moonlight, peaceful. The headstone glowed silver white, her name etched in shadow. I sat on the grass, my back against the oak tree, and watched the stars. Somewhere out there. Rebecca was watching too. I was certain of it. I finished it, I whispered to the darkness. Everything you asked, everything you hoped for. A shooting star streaked across the sky. Brief, brilliant, gone. I smiled. Good night, Rebecca. Rest easy. I stood, brushed the grass from my clothes and walked back to my car. Behind me, the cemetery was silent, but it was not an empty silence anymore. It was the silence of something completed, something honored. Something that would never be forgotten. I drove home through empty streets, the windows down, the night air cool on my face, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Peace.